I've been waiting for you.
Hello everybody, it's BYG Agami back with another video, and today I'm going to be reviewing episode 14 of VRAINS titled Ghost Girl's Invitation. First thing I do want to mention is that there's a lot of news that came out that's very important and vital to the series. Now, of course, it might not look vital right now, but for the length of VRAINS, for how long it's going to be airing, which is less than 3 years, of course, at least now, it's very important. So there is a new director, a chief director. The person that did it before, Hosoda, and I'm sorry if I pronounced it incorrectly, has stepped down from this role, and now the person that is taking over is Asuna Katatsuya. And the first thing I noticed is that he shares the same last name as Jinochi, which I think is pretty cool. So maybe we'll get some Jinochi memes inside VRAINS. That would be really cool if we just added that in there because of him sharing the last name as Jinochi. So the thing is, with the person that shares the last name as Jinochi, he has never directed any other anime. He's done, of course, animation director, but for a few episodes, but he's really never directed an anime as long as VRAINS is going to be in addition to an anime itself. So it's going to be interesting to see what this guy does. So far, it's been good. Like, I have not had an issue with this episode at all. I think that with them introducing new things I'll talk about later on in this review is really cool. That's the biggest bit of information regarding VRAINS. And I think that I might have a little theory now. This isn't 100% confirmed. It's just a theory that I just thought of, which is that last episode, episode 13, I never did a review about it. I never even watched it until today, rather, because I was like, it's a recap episode. I know what recap episodes are in Yu-Gi-Oh! They're decent. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to watch this, episode 13 with episode 14 in bulk, and just, spend a good hour watching Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS. And that's what I did. And the thing is, I'm going to give my thoughts about episode 13 before I even begin on with my theory is that episode 13 was okay. I think they did too much of a recap. I do like the way they really did that recap with the Yamamoto and Pigeon actually getting information from Ghost Girl, and there's footage, and they're going to release this Link VRAINS TV special and really get their paycheck back and get their money, which I thought was a really neat way. But just seeing the footage over and over again, and we've seen them several times in flashbacks, I just didn't like that. I thought it was kind of boring, but it was cool to see Emma's personality. These last two episodes have been so Emma focused, and I do like that. And if you guys are reading the title, there's like a little mini discussion, and in my reviews I'm going to format a discussion. So it's going to be a review plus a little discussion for every single episode of VRAINS that I'm going to be reviewing. So we get to see that, but also what's smart about Emma is that she gave out the information to, of course, Pigeon and then Yamamoto, though she did an interview as well. Now, this is just my theory, but this can also really reflect on her character, is that she is smart and she outsmarts people as well. Now, of course, she does stuff for higher pay, but if you really analyze it, she gave out an interview, even though she's done work with Soul Tech. I guarantee you Soul Tech does not want her leaking out information like that and, doing stuff to really betray on Soul Tech, and then Soul Tech is going to put a bounty on her, and then she's probably going to be chased around Den City along with Link VRAINS. So she knows that Yamamoto and Pigeon are just, they're not intelligent, they're not bright. So she gets paid, and then she most likely knew that Playmaker along with Kusanagi every night are going on Link VRAINS on the net and deleting these videos that pop up, and they instantly deleted it. So what she basically did was, of course, do an interview, but she tricked Yamamoto along with Pigeon just to get paid, and really just to get paid and capitalize on it. So that's smart of Emma, and I like that in her character. And there's a lot more information that we get about in episode 14, which I will review shortly after this. But the theory is that with episode 13 being a recap episode, I don't really believe that there should be a recap episode, especially within the first 14 episodes of VRAINS, or rather the first 13 episodes. So what I think is that they're just doing that for the transition in terms of, Link VRAINS along with the animation and the story writing, because if you look at episode 14, it's different. They did a lot of different animations, which probably took a lot of time, because if you guys don't know, usually with weekly animated shows, they take about 4 to 6 weeks to produce. And with that, doing a recap episode is very suitable, because episode 14 really has a big difference in terms of animation along with just the visuals itself. So maybe that's the reason why there is a recap, but we're not going to know. We'll probably figure out an interview later on, but that's going to be a while. However, episode 14, titled Ghost Girl's Invitation. So I really did like this episode. I think that they did a wonderful job on really showing Emma's character and her personal life. I mean, we even see her, for Christ's sakes, in her pajamas, all right? She's on her bed waiting until Playmaker can reply, and I've never seen that in Yu-Gi-Oh! I've never seen them really emphasize this much on another character's personal life and showing what they do in their daily activities. Now, of course, she wasn't, doing stuff like walking in the park or just having fun or doing her other things that she enjoys besides being a cyber treasure hunter. But it's still cool to see that, she does her work, but it was in different settings. Now, we got a little bit of this with Aoi, but it just wasn't as in-depth and it just wasn't as much screen time as I would have liked. So I do like that they're entering into the realms of the other characters' personal lives rather than just showing Yusaku and all the main stuff that occurs. Now, we also get to see that in this episode, Emma is attempting to hack into Soul Technology's databank, but she couldn't get through it fully. And then later on, it's revealed that she has the source, like she has a little bit of information, and she's using that as wager against Playmaker because she wants the AI, and if she wins, then she can get much more money. Now, one other thing I like about Emma is that she did her research. She gathered the videos, of course, that she recorded, and she was analyzing Playmaker and how he duels in the data storm, etc. And what she did was she's like, I'm going to OTK Playmaker because that's the best way to win. If not, and his life points go under 1,000, he's going to activate data storm, and then he's probably going to get the upper hand. So we literally see that she is probably going to be able to defeat Yusaku in one turn, which I don't think is going to be the case. I mean, I know dual scaling isn't a thing. It's more like power scaling in the Dragon Ball Z community and such, but let's be real, alright? They're not going to end off a duel just like that with Emma delivering the final blow and attack. They're most certainly going to go with a few more turns, and then the winner is going to be decided. Personally, I don't think that Emma is going to beat Yusaku simply because, I don't know, it's good for her character, but it takes away a lot from VRAINS. It just makes a lot more confusion than good, in my opinion, because of, Revolver losing. So does that mean that Emma's stronger than Revolver, even though in episode 7 or 8, she was shocked at the sheer power that Revolver had? So I just don't think that's good. Another thing is Akira Zaizen. It was really cool to see Akira, even though he got demoted to chief, how he still cares about his employees and how he's not really mad. Of course, he's probably somewhat mad that he lost his job and he worked so hard for it, but he's not as mad as I would imagine. He just passes it by. He still works on his goals. He still works on his motives, which are to figure out what happened 10 years ago, that incident, and then we get to see the replacement for Akira Zaizen. And he just has a really different point of view on executing things with his employees. He says stuff like, if you guys do not work harder, if you guys do not figure out this information, if people do hack, link VRAINS and I will cut your guys' salaries down 50%, which is hell, man. That's a lot of damn money cut off. But regarding Akira, is that he still cares for his employees, and I like that. And also, when Emma confronts Akira, Akira confronts Emma, and they're talking to each other on this little cool Den City shot, and you see the sun and stuff, and Emma's talking to Akira, and she's like, yeah, I found the back door to Soul Technology's databank, which I don't think is the case because she attempted to hack, but she only got a little far. So I think maybe she's deceiving them, which I think is the case. And if you guys do know, please do comment that down below and correct my mistake. I will pin the comment that corrects it. But regarding that, she says something like this. She's like, I'm not going to give you Akira. I don't really care about a man who doesn't have any power nor money. Which, man, that's probably sunk deep in Akira. But if you look at his face and along with what he says, he just passes that by. He doesn't really give a crap what she said. And that really does show a lot about Emma's character. I mean, Santa's catchphrase really defines Emma when it comes to her choice in males and relationships, I would imagine. Or actually her last name, Emma Besho. Just read off her last name a little bit more and slow it down, and you guys will understand what I'm trying to convey. However, regarding the duel itself, and that's probably going to be the final thing I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to talk about one more thing towards the end, as well as the discussion. So we see the duel, and it's really cool. The Link summon along with the speed duel backgrounds and the Den City background are much different. They're much more cool. Now, this is just my first reaction to that, okay? And when we see a lot of cool things and a lot of new things, at first, our responses are, man, that's cool, that's so dope. And then we're looking at the older stuff, the older material that VRAINS used, and we're going to be like, man, that's not that cool anymore. It looks like shit, and they've been reusing it. Now, this is just my first initial reaction. I think that the background along with the speed duel city is much cooler and much more dope, along with the Link summoning. The Link summoning is faster, and I just like that it gets straight to the point, and I liked how they like really zoomed in on when Emma's monsters were going into the link markers. I thought that was really cool. But as I said before, this is my initial reaction. If they keep on reusing this material for the next 10 episodes, I'm probably going to have the same reactions as I'm having towards the link summon animation. But I will say this though. My opinions will not change in terms of how long the link animation is. When the link summoning animation for like, when Yusaku link summons or go on Azuka or Revolver, how they go into that whole thing with, Yusaku and Revolver jumping in the air and doing that. That's just too that's just too long. But still, as this is my initial reaction, of course I'm going to be much more hyped and excited. So I'm probably going to wait a little bit longer until I, have a concise answer and just opinion. Because right now we're in the hype stages. I would imagine all of us, we see this new material in VRAINS. We see the new things on how Emma is, and we get a really new scope on how she acts and what she does at home. Even though it's not that much in terms of how people should really be acting at home, it's still cool. It's a change from the stuff that we got several weeks ago for VRAINS. So until a few more episodes happen and see the stuff over and over again, and I would imagine that some of the stuff is probably going to get boring, like the link summon animation, but I will always still admire it for how fast it is rather than, the first link summoning animation, which takes forever. But now let's get back onto the duel itself. So I really do like that Emma did her research on Yusaku and how he's probably going to bring his life points down to 1,000 active Storm Access, and she tries to go for an OTK. She comes off as very fierce. I mean, Kusanagi, Ignis, they all pointed out that she is a very good duelist, that she really, she keeps her dueling game. She never really slacks. And I forget the specific line that Kusanagi stated, but he stated something like, she stays the same. She's not lessening at all in terms of her dueling skills and her just whole scope on things. She's not putting her guard down. That's the best term to say. That took a while just to really think of. And the final thing I want to talk about is Yusaku. Yusaku, he wasn't baffled as much as I would expect. He was just, okay, yeah, Emma's doing this. And when we saw his face, they covered up his face, man. They did the Yugi from GX stuff. I hate that. So they covered up his face. We never got to see his reaction in terms of Emma delivering the final blow, which could possibly end the duel, which I don't think is going to be the case. But he just wasn't as shocked as Kusanagi and Ignis were. And that to me means something. That to me means that Yusaku has something up his sleeve. We all know that. I mean, he's done it multiple times in multiple duels. He's probably going to pop up a spell card or a trap card or activate an effect that we haven't seen yet and really show his dominance and how much of a better duelist he is than Emma Besso. But still, it's really cool that we got a lot of focus on Emma. My opinions on her as a character have changed. I don't really care about the whole line about, men and all that. We all know where Yu-Gi-Oh goes in terms of relationships and, love interest. It goes down the gutter. Yu-Gi-Oh never does love. And I don't think VRAINS is probably going to do that either. So that doesn't really bother me. But getting on to the discussion of this episode review, is Emma an interesting character? Or, well, rather, Emma is a much more interesting character than we expected, or well, at least I expected. So at first we just thought that she was a girl that really did stuff for higher pay, which is true, but she's also, I don't know, there's something about her where she's she thinks of Yusaku first as cool, she said that in one of the episodes, but she's interested. Even though she does stuff for higher pay and she wants to get money, there's still an interest in her. And that's probably the reason why she does all this cyber treasure hunting stuff. Of course, she's probably got a shit ton of money already, but she still wants that drive. She's really into that whole, that drive, that thing that is pushing her, which is to figure out about Yusaku. And it's very similar to Mai. I see a lot of Mai inside Emma, but a lot of the things is on a much grander scale for Emma. I mean, Mai doesn't come close in terms of this whole 10-year incident that happened, but we see that Mai is, of course, doing stuff for money. That's why she participates in Duelist Kingdom. She wants to get money so she can go to Paris and buy the fragrances, and I think it was in the manga or the anime, but Mai talks about how she wants to have a duel with Yugi. She finds that very interesting. It's just in her nature as a duelist to duel some foe that's much higher than her in skill, or she wants to prove something. It's just that thrive, that, I don't know the right word to say it, but it's just that whole driving force on trying to beat Yugi in a duel, or trying to get to Yugi in duel, but still with Mai. And there's another thing that I want to bring up, is that with Emma is that she just doesn't act as a normal human being. Like, you know, she does stuff for higher pay. Like most humans, I would imagine, like VRAINS are more humble than that. You know, they still care about the well-being for others. Now, I'm not saying that Emma doesn't care about the well-being for others, but you know, you just got to put a little bit more money in it for her at least. And same applies to Mai, but it's different. Like for Mai's instance, she never had this whole friendship aspect. She never had this whole friendship aspect that Yugi and Ko did. She thought that was weird. And, you know, the more she hanged out with Yugi and Ko and the fact that Yugi saved her from panic and she saw just the whole way they acted as a group, that really rubbed off on her. And then she became much more inclined to the whole notion of having friends is somewhat cool. And I think some people should have friends, or well, for Mai's instance, maybe having friends is cool. But at the same time, she still has that mentality that she had from the start in the back of her head, which is being a lone wolf, and we see that in Battle City. I mean, I think it was on, you know, the blimp during the Battle City quarterfinals where Mai talks about how, you know, I shouldn't be hanging out with Jinochi and Ko. And then of course when Jinochi has a duel with Rashid, that changes her opinions a lot. She's like, you know what, Jinochi's actually cool. Or well, actually my bad, that happens after the duel. I think it was the duel with her and Merrick, if I'm correct. And then she sees the importance of friendship and such. And then after that, when Jinochi attempts to save her, that's one of his motives later on in Battle City. Of course, his main motive is to become a true duelist, but she sees that Jinochi looked after her, and that really opened her up as a character much more. Now, for Emma's instance, I do believe that she's gonna definitely change as a character. Like the way she acts now and VRAINS is definitely going to be changed whatever towards the end of the series, however long it may be. The question that I want to ask you guys is, what direction do you think Emma is going to go as a character? Like, will she still be that treasure hunter, or well, rather that cyber treasure hunter person that does stuff for higher pay, that of course still looks after people, but it comes down to how much money she's getting paid, and she still has an interest in stuff? Or will she be much more open to having friends and not looking at things in dollar signs like Ushio? And of course still have that, but really soften up in terms of doing stuff for higher pay. And that's what I find interesting about her character. Not only the fact that she did research on Yusaku Fujiki and trying to find a way to defeat him in a duel, and of course having curiosity in that whole 10-year thing, which I think, you know, everyone does. But it's just the fact of how is her character going to turn out, which I find interesting. I think is going to be very interesting for VRAINS. I think the two most important characters right now for me in terms of VRAINS and how they're going to end out is definitely Akira and Emma. Because, actually, no, I take that back, because we don't know what's going to happen for Emma just yet. You know, there still hasn't been a thing where she has learned her lesson. So right now it's definitely Revolver and Akira. I mean, Akira lost his job, so we're just going to have to see what happens, because I think Soul's definitely looking after him. They're going to figure out what he's going to do for VRAINS, and, you know, the whole thing about trying to find out the 10-year incident. And as for Revolver, I want to see how he bounces back from this loss that he took from Playmaker. And the final thing I want to talk about before I wrap this review / discussion up is in episode 13, the recap episode, when Yusaku is talking about how annoying, you know, Ignis is, that's why he left him home. And then Ignis is talking to the robot, and he's like, man, these robots are too dumb to figure out how cool I am. He states, I am almost complete, and then I'll make you much smarter. Now, what does that mean? Is he talking about he's almost there to having free will, and maybe he'll have a whole, you know, army of AIs, which I don't think is going to be the case, but still, like, is he plotting for a scheme much deeper than Kusanagi, Revolver, Emma, along with Yusaku are thinking? Because Emma just stated in the duel that, you know, why is Soltech after this dumb AI, and he got somewhat offended. And along with, you know, Playmaker, he agrees with that, and then Kusanagi's somewhat like, you know, what about this free will stuff that's going to be happening? What if, and I know it's a big what if, but what if Ignis is just doing all this, you know, acting stupid along with not showing his true intelligence and just, you know, questioning how humans act and their emotions and stuff? What if it's just like a disguise or just an illusion, and he's really plotting something serious? And what if he's just really the main villain of VRAINS? Now, of course, there's like small bits of them trying to convey that. Like, you can argue like things like what happened in episode 3 along with what Revolver said and what's happening right now, that little line. But what if he's just really plotting his schemes and using Yusaku to his advantage, and he's just playing off that he's really dumb or something like that? And that's the reason why he has free will, because he's manipulating them and he's giving off an illusion that possibly isn't really his real, illusion itself. But again, this probably can get debunked because of how he acted within the, episode 1 flashback. But at the same time, what if we weren't shown the whole scene itself? So maybe there was something going behind the scenes. And it's kind of funny that somehow when you compare Ignis to all the other 5 AIs, he comes up short in terms of how he acts. Like, all the other AIs were much smarter. And to say that Ignis, someone that isn't really that intelligent and, sorry for my language, but is stupid according to Emma, or well, rather dumb according to Emma and Yusaku, Ignis is the one that escapes, I just don't think that, it doesn't add up. So I really do think that there is something about Ignis that we're just going to have to figure out. We're just going to have to wait and see to figure out. So that's the review for today, and that along with the discussion. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Check out the Facebook fan page regarding Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS. We're at 1,500 members. Let's get to 1,600 as fast as we can. Subscribe, leave a like, and thank you guys for watching.